Good morning. Good morning. Happy Sunday. May we please begin standing as we're able and singing together hymn number 360, Here We Have Gathered.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Portland. We are a multi-generational community that strives to nurture the individual spirit and together build a beloved community. Whether you're here in the sanctuary today or joining us online, we are so glad you are with us this morning. Following this service, I invite you to join fellow congregants for a social hour in Fuller Hall, just below the sanctuary. And if you're new here this morning, I invite you to join us for a brief welcome circle directly following the service over here in the gallery to your right. This is just a chance to meet some community leaders, staff, and other new folks in the congregation and ask any questions you might have. I have a few announcements this morning. Next Sunday, August 25th, is the annual Question Box service. This is a time for members, friends, and visitors to ask questions of Reverend Alison about faith in general, Unitarian Universalism in particular, our congregation, or whatever question is on your heart and mind. Please drop your question in the question box outside the sanctuary in the narthex, or email them to q.and.a@firstunitarianportland.org by Thursday, August 22nd. Volunteers will go through them, make selections, and send Alison the questions for Sunday morning. We hope you will join us next Sunday, August 25th, after the service in Buchanan Reception Hall to boost our UU the Vote efforts into high gear. We'll be joined online by our faith siblings from the UU the Vote campaign and from the Arizona Justice Network. You can find more information about this in the front steps and visit the UU the Vote table in Fuller Hall after service. And in an effort to create spaces for us to come together as a community to reflect on recent changes at the church, You're invited to join a listening circle. There's several options: August 25th or September 8th, in person after service from 11:45 to 2. And we hope that you'll be able to join in person, but there will also be an online option on August 28th, and there will be more information about how to access that in this week's Front Steps. And I just want everyone to note the 3 options so that you can both go to UU the Vote and a listening circle if you're worried that you won't be able to do both. These one-time gatherings will be facilitated by members of our lay ministry team and board of trustees, and there's more information in the Front Steps. And finally, a quick and exciting save the date for our all-church picnic on September 14th from noon to 4 in Wilshire Park. You can check the Front Steps for more info about that exciting upcoming event. And now let us take a few minutes to greet our neighbors this morning and say hello. I love hearing so much friendly chatter. I hope you will all continue that at coffee hour after the service. And if you were lucky enough to meet a visitor, to meet a newcomer sitting next to you today, I hope that you'll invite them to join you down for coffee hour. And now I will invite Reverend Alison up to help me light the chalice. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Our call to worship this morning, the words are by Richard Gilbert. Come into the circle of caring. Come into the community of gentleness, of justice, and of love. Come and let the healing powers of this people penetrate you. Let loving joy and kindness infuse you and you. And may peace be the law of all of our hearts. In this human circle, caring is a calling. All of us are called. Welcome to the circle of caring.
Alleluia.
Can I get an amen? Amen. Our responsive reading, Your Broken Heart by Angela Herrera. Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards and the world needs vision. Bring them with you and your joy and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your powers to heal. There is work to do, and you have all that you need to do it right here in this room. Let us join together in singing our doxology. It is our practice to share our offering each week with organizations that reflect our own church mission. This summer, we are focusing on Unitarian Universalist organizations. The last 2 weeks in August, we share our plate with UU the Vote, a bold initiative created by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Side with Love team. UU the Vote provides resources to bring our democratic values to life in the crucial struggle to build a genuine, multiracial democracy. First Unitarian has been actively involved in the UU the Vote campaign since 2022, and we are grateful for their support. If you'd like to give, here a QR code will appear shortly. If you are online, you can also use the donate button on Boxcast. And for those in person who want to give by cash or check, ushers will be by shortly. Thank you for your generosity, which sustains the ministry of this congregation and our partners in the larger community.
During our service each week, we take time to hold the prayer intentions of our community. If you're here in person, you can light a candle of intention in one of our side galleries. If you are online, you can send them to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Our ministers and our wonderful lay ministers are here to hold your prayers and provide care throughout the week. I have a few parish concerns to share this morning. Today's flowers are given by Nancy Hagensick in memory of her beloved sister, Joanne Hagensick, who died at the beginning of this year. And we hold member Barbara Ullman in our prayers as she recovers from a brainstem stroke at Legacy Good Samaritan Rehab. Barbara reports that although the stroke caused some verbal and visual difficulties, her condition is already improving. We send healing wishes to Barbara this morning. And member Mark Turple is delighted to report that his daughter Claire and son-in-law Andrew have welcomed their baby Walker to their family. Mark reports that except for sleep deprivation, all are doing well. Will you join me in a spirit of prayer? Spirit of life, we pray this morning that you help attune our spirits and senses to the rhythms of the earth. Help us to notice the little shifts in the late summer air, the slightly shorter days, the finally ripe tomatoes and peaches, the evening breezes that briefly chill our skin, part warning and part promise of the cooler months that always come. Help us see the meaning and beauty in even these small turnings, and open our hearts to what this waning season has left to teach us. Lessons of abundance and abandon, of spacious days and a slower pace, coupled with an awareness that none of it lasts forever. Spirit of life, let the season that contains thunderstorms and fires, flower-filled days and cool, gentle nights hold us and all we are carrying. May we find in the world around us a kind of language for our pain, grief, and longing, and for our joys, hopes, and happiness. God, hear our August prayers, and let us leave here today and venture out into the rain-washed late summer world, knowing that our burdens are lightened and our joys multiplied when they are shared and held in community. Amen. Now let us share in a few moments of silence together. Let us remain seated as we join in singing our next hymn, Come Sing a Song With Me.
Thank
Our reading this morning is by you all. It is the First Unitarian Portland Congregational Covenant. Unitarian Universalist churches, including our beloved faith community, are founded on the mutual promises we make to one another about how we will live together, rather than on a shared belief system or creed. The covenant of the members and friends of First Unitarian Church of Portland, Oregon, encourages us to bring our best selves to our relationships with one another and to grow in spirit by deepening our connections with each other. Every member and friend of the First Church community is encouraged to join in these promises to ensure that this institution thrives and can accomplish its mission in the world. I promise to cultivate in myself appreciation of our commonalities and differences, joy and a sense of humor, trust that others have good intentions, generosity of spirit and substance, willingness to forgive and seek forgiveness, ownership of my actions and their consequences, gratitude for those who helped build our church community, and commitment to sustaining this church for those who will follow after. In accordance with these values and intentions, I promise to give generously of my time, talents, and resources, be kind and compassionate, listen to understand rather than to judge or prove a point, support and nurture others, express appreciation of others' efforts, talk with rather than about others, be mindful and considerate in my communications and interactions, respond to anger with gentleness, forgive myself and others when we fail to keep these promises, and begin again in love and faith. This covenant is a touchstone that guides us in nurturing ourselves and our church community and supporting its work in the world. Through it, we will enrich our relationships with one another and serve others in accordance with our principles. Together, we pledge to revisit and renew our promises to one another, to foster our spiritual growth, and sustain the vitality of our congregation and its larger mission in the world.
So the piece the choir is about to sing was written as part of the Social Justice Choral Songbook, a collection of pieces through the lens of social advocacy and social outreach. And this piece was dedicated to the victims of the night at the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida in 2016. And there's a part of this piece that I would like to invite you all to sing along with us at a certain time. And it sounds like this. Repeat after me if you'd like. Love, love, love. Let's try that bit. Ready, go. Love, love, love. Second part. All we need is love, love, love. Let's try that. Ready? All we need is love, love, love. 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 Yes, yes. So, at a certain point, I will turn, and if you'd like to sing with us, please do.
Over the years, the Unitarian Universalist Association, our parent organization, has put forth a number of touchstone sentiments about who we are and what we're all about. Some of these have become taglines on the UUA website and sayings that you might find on a bookmark around a congregation, or you might even find yourself behind a bumper sticker on some of our members' cars. One of them, some of you might remember, was nurture your spirit, heal our world. Those 6 succinct words capture so much about our faith's orientation and how we are called to be and act with ourselves, with one another, and with our neighbors near and far. If we can nurture our spirits with the healing spiritual foods of love, compassion, and understanding, then we can become the healing agents of change who are able to offer those qualities with family, friends, strangers, and even with people with whom we have little in common, with whom we disagree, and who we may describe as other in our words or actions. Our Unitarian side calls us to awaken the love, compassion, and understanding that resides in each of us, to nurture and cultivate the divine spark, or the Buddha within. Our Universalist side calls us to perceive that everyone has this capacity, that all of us carry a divine spark or a Buddha within. And in the end, what we need is all of us to survive and thrive. Thich Nhat Hanh, one of our beloved Buddhist teachers, writes and speaks about the importance of mindful consumption and how everything that we consume acts to heal or poison us. That includes everything that we take in with our senses, our eyes, our ears, our noses, and our bodies. When you think about the past week or the past month, what are the words that you have said or received which promoted insight and compassion, or understanding and connection? What are the words that you have said or received that have nourished misperceptions and disconnection, harm and suffering? While we affirm the divine spark or the Buddha nature within all of us, that is part of who we are. We all make mistakes, hold misperceptions, and miss the mark of love. We are human beings with gifts and with flaws. We all have need to receive and offer better nourishment in order to grow more just, loving, and wise. The call to nurture your spirit and heal our world is not a stagnant doctrine which references the truth found in the past, but rather an example of a living tradition which is fulfilled in the present and the future. It is a covenant, or a set of promises we make and act upon to the best of our ability, and which we can return to when we fall short. About 20 years ago or so, I'm turning around to Terry, about 20 years ago or so, yes, I got a nod, our congregation was in a time of experiencing conflict that resulted in the members of our church writing the covenant we heard. A set of promises about how we are with ourselves, with one another, and how we seek to relate in the wider world. And you'll find it located just outside the sanctuary, right here on my left. And if you're at home, you can find it right up there on our website under the Our Beliefs section. Here are 2 of the promises we are invited to live into and up to over time. I promise to cultivate in myself a willingness to forgive and seek forgiveness. And I promise to be mindful and considerate in my communications and interactions. It is an example of a behavioral covenant or a set of right relations promises. Now, 20 years is a long time, and I don't know that we've spoken so much about the covenant in the last decade, at least according to what many of you have reported to me. I'm only here 2 years, and I haven't heard us sharing it in any group gatherings or meetings, as is the case with some of the behavioral covenants in our other congregations. Maybe it's because while many of the words remain guiding lights, perhaps some of those words are less resonant today, or that we would seek to add new promises or different promises. Just think, it was written before Facebook and before corporations were profiting from algorithms that cultivate anger on various social media platforms. And just in the last week, I know I thought of the words of the takedown of so many Olympians, the attack on their identities and the identities of others. Here's an example of maybe some language we might change or add to. I promise to cultivate in myself trust that others have good intentions. Maybe it would be strengthened with the addition of a sentence about mindfulness, about the impact of thoughts, words, and actions that perpetuate harm. My guess is that the tradition of sharing our right relations covenant either didn't fully take root or it just fell away over time. We took it for granted. We started to say to ourselves, we're Unitarian Universalists. We're kind everywhere we go. For the newcomers, if you hear us saying that, you can remind us we all need a little help from our friends. Maybe the reason, though, is that we enjoyed creating so many different covenants in small groups and forgot the importance of a shared covenant for this community as a whole. In my first year here, I experienced and noticed that there were unresolved conflicts that had been building within the staff and within some other pockets of our volunteers and community life together. By the way, conflict will arise everywhere there are human beings. It only requires 2 of them. And sometimes we can argue with ourselves. When I've counseled couples before their wedding, we always touch on the subject of how they navigate conflict. And the one couple I worried the most about was the couple who said, "Oh, we never have a disagreement or a fight." If the plan is to never disagree, it will fall apart. Just give it a little time. The answer to conflict is not the absence of conflict, to have a mind meld or to promote groupthink. That doesn't work in families, friendship circles, neighborhoods, schools, or any community in which we participate. If it seems that way, people may be sweeping conflict under the rug, which eventually generally leads to explosions, or so I have witnessed in the 4 congregations in which I have participated. If conflicts in the past have been handled in divisive or explosive ways, then people may learn to avoid conflict. However, avoiding conflict doesn't allow for healing and growth. The answer to conflict is the presence of tools that help us to navigate those conflicts as they arise, whether they are simple matters of creative tension, more complicated matters of competing values, or the impacts of siloing, such as misperceptions and so on. One of the tools that Unitarian Universalists make use of are these behavioral covenants or right relations promises. Another one is a team of lay leaders in the community who work with the ministers to help support and promote right relations. And this is something I had raised with our board much more than a year ago that maybe we were missing. And now I'm raising it with all of us to think about. I've heard a number of names for this team over the years, a healthy congregations team, a right relations committee, a restoring wholeness team, a committee on healthy ministries, or shared ministries among them. In the congregation I served before here, the team was called the Committee on Ministries. Our mission and our vision are about where we are headed together. Our covenant is about how we are with one another on the way. It is about the quality of the journey as well as the destination. And this is a spiritual matter. In a world influenced by unfettered capitalism, it is too easy to just focus on the ends justifies the means kind of thinking, on the product. But here we are called to reflect upon what we are trying to produce and everything we construct and consume along the way. A committee on healthy ministries might reflect upon questions like, how fares the spirit of our congregation? Or how fares the spirit of a particular part of our congregation? They might visit a part of the church that is experiencing tensions and ask some guiding questions to help people listen deeply to one another and to respond to one another with greater compassion. And that team's peaceful presence and their desire for the well-being of the whole congregation helps us to turn away from notions of winners and losers or us versus them thinking binaries towards a vision that is more inclusive. People rotate on and off this committee and are trained in conflict mediation. And by the way, because you haven't had one yet, it can be a really sought-after group when the need arises. It was deeply meaningful for me to work alongside the lay leaders of the Committee on Ministries as we created containers for conflict to transform into learning and growth. We have a new group now. I want to point towards a group that I think is a good example, the transformation team that provides a glimpse of what might be possible here. That team is looking at our 8th principle about our promises to dismantle racism and other oppressions and to build the beloved community together. This is vital, nourishing work. And they are looking at how we can implement that into every facet of our congregation. We might also want to explore a team that supports us in our collective promises and supports when we are struggling so that we don't have to wait for an explosion, but they are also there for when that happens too. The truth is, it is not just that team's work to do. So whether or not a team like that exists, this is about you, me, all of us. It is our shared ministry to work together to fulfill our covenants, including our behavioral covenants. This morning, I want to revisit one of the promises that was mentioned in the covenant in our reading and that I repeated. I promise to be mindful and considerate in my communications and interactions. Such a simple string of words. Of course, we may say we agree with that, but much harder to practice in our daily lives. We fall short of our promises, and when we do, though, a guiding statement like that calls us back to our better selves. As a way to approach mindful communication that's lifted up in that promise, let's listen to what Thich Nhat Hanh might say on right speech and loving speech that might be helpful in our efforts towards mindful communication and how to practice it. The first set comes from the 4 Bodhisattva guidelines pertaining to right speech. 1, tell the truth. 2, don't exaggerate. Ripped from the headlines, J.D. Vance has done plenty of things for us to lift up as examples of harm. We don't have to make stuff up. 3, Be consistent, no doublespeak. 4, use peaceful language. Don't use insulting or violent words, cruel speech, verbal abuse, or condemnation. The second set of guidance comes from 6 mantras that Thich Nhat Hanh suggests to promote loving speech. The first mantra, I am here for you. To be present. We must be present. I am here for you is about being present to ourselves and being present to another. The second mantra, I know you are there, and I am very happy, affirming the presence of the other person. The third mantra, I know you suffer, and that is why I am here for you. The fourth mantra, I suffer too, please help. I suffer, I want you to know it. I don't understand why you did or said what you did, so please explain. I need your help. The fifth mantra, this is a happy moment. When we come into the present, we can always be aware of something to be grateful for and happy about. How about today's music? How about the warmth of this community? How about working together to tell the truth? This is a happy moment. The sixth mantra, you are partly right. And so this one gives us a chance to practice right away. So if someone says to you, admiring all of your positive qualities and says, you are perfect, here's what you can say back. You are partly right. I also have other things inside of me. So you'll answer, you are partly right. You and everyone in this room is perfect. You can say to me, you are partly right. And if someone is speaking harshly and condemning you, you can say again, you are only partly right. I have other positive qualities too. So let's try that. You are horrible, and you can say, you're only partly right. Because we all have other positive qualities too. We are both capable of promoting goodness and capable of falling short of the mark of love. As you are aware, if you've been around, there has been a significant conflict amongst segments of our community around the music ministry transition. And for those of you who are newer, you're getting to watch in real time our practice to be in covenant and to turn towards right relations. So I'm going to go first reflecting on some of the deep listening that I've done. And by the way, disentangling a larger conflict is much more complicated than a couple of simple examples in a sermon, which are much harder to practice, even though simple. When I listened deeply to what some members in the choir who sang on June 9th shared, that it was painful and felt dismissive to expect that they would be able to sing immediately following the news that our music director would be leaving, I must say, I am sorry. I could have proceeded with more care. On one hand, the board and executive team didn't expect the news to be shared by that day. We were giving the music director time to consider his options about what leave-taking would look like, and we hadn't heard back from him as to his wishes surrounding communication. On the other hand, what happened was that he did start sharing his perception of the news out right away, and some people became upset that he would be leaving and that they didn't hear it directly from us as leaders. We focused on writing to the whole congregation, and I'm sorry that I didn't think enough about the impact that it might have on the choir that following Sunday. Our thought was that people could sing if they wished to, And as always is the case in Unitarian Universalist circles, no one is forced to do anything. But you know what? That could have been written in a letter. You know what else? Given that the information was going out in side kind of ways, we could have come up with something entirely different for the music that Sunday morning. I can see how that was hurtful and unreasonable as an expectation for some, even while there were others in the choir that morning that were willing to sing. It's a multifaceted conflict, and people have different feelings about the outcome. Again, we could have written directly to the choir to let them know what we were thinking, to receive their feedback, and perhaps to make an even wiser choice. And for that, I am sorry for the hurt I caused, and I'm willing to do the work of repair, beginning with naming that I was part of causing hurt by not modifying the expectations that morning. Among the things that I could name about feeling hurt myself in this conflict, and others have shared a similar point of view, but I will speak for myself. I felt pain and hurt by the action of people who protested on that same day without a prior step of having a conversation with the board or the executive team or me as the minister first to find out why we made such a difficult decision. I have even heard a few folks say that they can treat a minister like any president or politician they are angry with. But there is a difference. We are in this community together. Yes, we Unitarian Universalists engage in dissent and sometimes protest. But this is the first time I have experienced it with some members going to protest as a first resort. We have a need to talk about, again, what are our agreements about how we handle conflict? And that's a community-wide conversation. One of the tenets of the Poor People's Campaign, which many of us here in Portland and back in New Jersey engaged in, included protest. But our practice was that even with politicians, we met with them and gave them and ourselves a chance to understand one another's positions and decisions, and for us all to move forward in moral ways before we ever protested or interrupted meetings and proceedings. I name these two examples as a way of beginning and naming that we are all learning how to navigate conflict in this community and that we can and will do better. I am enthusiastic about the growth that is possible for us as we live into and up to our promises. One last thing that may help us is working on the silos that exist in our community. We are one community made up of so many teams. I'll name a few: the ushers, the teachers, the choirs, the sextons, the ministers and program leaders, the board, the lay leaders, and lay ministers, and so on. While team spirit is a good thing, I have been a camp director. At times it can lead to isolation, groupthink, or misperceptions, as we may not see the whole picture. In the midst of team spirit with two different colors, one of the youth camps, a Unitarian Universalist youth camp, decided it would be a really cool idea to nail shut all of the doors of one of the cabins and leave only a bucket and toilet paper with Enya on repeat outside of the door. Sometimes we lose sight of one another's human needs. We are not alone in this tendency. It turns out that even astronauts who are selected, by the way, out of thousands and thousands of people per one position, in part because of their ability not to get caught up in conflict and to be resilient through it, can get up in what is called the crew versus ground control mentality. What can be surprising is that this tension can actually lead to a kind of group bonding over and against the other group. Clearly, that was happening in camp that day. Josh Ehrlich describes this phenomenon. There are times when you'd get an email from mission support and you'd be like, what is this person thinking? They're nuts. And then you'd say, hey, look at this. And in those moments, it was like a bonding experience. For example, this could happen between the AV team and the ministers. Look at this email the ministers sent. Can you believe what they'd like us to do? They're nuts. There's a need to come together and really listen to each other and understand one another's perspectives rather than getting caught up in that us versus them. And you know we could replace ground control with crew versus Democrat, with usher versus another group, and we need to be mindful of how this tendency may feel like bonding or even have the intention of bonding, but instead it creates the impact of breaking the bonds between us. But that's okay. Remember, on the days we fall short, we're in the company of astronauts, and it's only partly right. We have a divine spark, or the Buddha within too. May this season of growth awaken our compassion, our love, and our understanding. May it awaken a fresh awareness that we don't know everything, that we can't see everything, and that we have need of one another along the journey, especially if the destination requires all of us, which is the case where we are headed. The beloved community is the table where all of us are welcome and all are to be nourished by love, integrity, and joy. May it be so, and amen. And now in our going, may love bless us and keep us. May love shine down upon us. May it radiate out from within us. May it be gracious unto all of us. And may it make of us peace builders and beloved community shapers. For this is the day that you and I are given, so let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace, practice love wisely and over and over and over again when you do it unwisely. Know that you are a very good blessing, and go forth and share the best parts of that blessing with the world. Blessed be.